Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 7 of Charmed.
Soul Survivor.
Or 4 vaguely related subplots that don't add up to one full story in literally any case, except I guess Paige's.
Or 4 drafts away from being a coherent episode. And wait, that sounded so mean the way I just said that, but I really mean, like, it feels like this one was rushed, the script was rushed, and they really just needed a couple more drafts to pull it all together.
Yeah, we were on such a good run, and this episode isn't bad or anything, it's just...
It's the worst kind of bad. It's almost there, but not quite.
It's fine.
Okay, I gotta tell you a legal thing.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Is it about tortious interference?
No, it's about Lochner.
Okay.
Okay, so Lochner was a case that you learn in con law.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially the case said that it was about a requirement that bakers in New York City only work a certain number of hours.
Okay.
Totally random, right? And this person, Lochner, took it to the Supreme Court where it was ruled that it violated the right to contract to put this kind of limitation on. Basically, it's an anti-regulation case, and it's no longer good law. It's well. The Lochner era of contracts is over, and of course, Lochner did not take into account the fact that people are not contracting from like equal footing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job, you inherently are at a disadvantage to a person who is offering a job. So it makes sense that there will be regulations that protect certain rights. And also it's why everyone should form unions. Don't even get me started on that. Anyway. I just remember in con law, though, the professor was like, yeah, no one likes Lochner now. There are no people walking around being fans of Lochner. And first of all, that tells you how long ago I was in law school, because I feel like that's not the case anymore. Like, people are willing to be vocal about that. But also... And so, even though, right, like, I can acknowledge you're not contracting from, like, an equal place or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I do want to bring that up because I feel like it's a flaw in myself, like a moral failing in myself, that as I was watching this episode, I was like, Paige, he made the deal, he understood the deal, he's willing to go forward with the deal, this is really not your business at all.
Yeah.
He sold his soul with full knowledge of what he was doing.
Also, not to spoiler alert for the end of this episode, but it really feels like burning the contract shouldn't affect because they're mystical contracts. I don't feel like destroying the physical contracts should liberate people from their bindingness.
I was gonna jump to Angel and talk about like how quickly like setting a record for how quickly we jump to the Whedonverse in this show about Charmed.
Yes.
But instead I'm going to talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they try to negate their contracts by eating them in the Kitten Mittens episode.
Yes, I've actually seen that one. But it's like, also, like, isn't it like the definition of tortious interference?
That's not the definition of tortious interference. Tortious interference is like in Little Mermaid when Flotsam and Jetsam stop Eric from kissing Ariel.
Okay, I guess actively murdering the person who set up the contract and then setting it on fire isn't technically...
Well, it's just like setting it on fire. Here, that's... Okay, setting it on fire, if you are not caught setting it on fire, is an unethical but could be a successful strategy if the plan is to deny the contract ever existed and then the other person doesn't have any proof of it. However, this is assuming that hell doesn't have backups, and let me tell you of a thing I am 100% certain of, is that in hell there is lots of paperwork.
I just mean Paige's whole making the deal to get him out of the contract that involves her going to hell, even though she never intended it. Yes.
No, yeah, there's no way this should work at all. I totally agree. We'll talk about it in more detail when we get there.
So the episode opens with Paige on one of her temp jobs where she's. It really feels like helping a guy who's planning his own suicide.
Well, he's taking care of a lot of end of life documents, right? He's setting up some trusts, and
He's, as she points out, he's a young, healthy guy, but he's setting up all of his end of life stuff, which I know you can.
you should do
killed
that anyway.
at
You could
any
get hit by a
time.
bus tomorrow.
Yes, I know, but the way that he's talking about giving away his most valued possessions and all this money to charity, it really feels like he's planning on killing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know, that's not what they were going for, but that was the vibe I got.
Well, I mean, I think the thing that really sells that vibe is not so much that he's putting his end-of-life documents into place, but the fact that then he finishes it off by giving Paige a giant envelope full of cash and telling her to get the hell out.
Yeah.
Because he notices that it's almost midnight, so he gives her some cash and tells her to leave.
And she's like, I'll see you tomorrow. And he's like, I wouldn't count on it. And she's like, I have no follow-up questions to that. I'm just going to leave on that note. But as she is leaving, she starts to hear a scuffle coming from the office.
Oh, I have to point out one more thing.
Yeah?
There's this thing going around TikTok where people are talking about the way that the pandemic and maybe also Gen Z have changed what work-appropriate attire is. And I really just want to make a response to those videos with shots from Charmed. That skirt! I don't want to be a prude, but Paige, that skirt is too short for office work.
I mean, honestly, in terms of Charmed, that is a fairly professional outfit.
You know what? Fair.
Like, it's only got some cleave. The skirt is short, but you can't see any pubic bone or anything. Anyway, she hears a scuffle coming from the office, like, basically as soon as she leaves, and she runs back in. And the guy, Larry, he's like, no! And it's like, you knew this was coming. Like, I mean, I guess the natural reaction to being murdered is to yell out, no, but, like...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you don't have to face death with dignity. To be fair to him, when Paige comes in, he shoves her out of the way of the demons.
I feel like I've got nothing but diversions here.
Yes.
But it's like when I was visiting the Tower of London and there were the stories about the people being beheaded and they were like, I wish the king nothing but well. I know he's doing what he feels, like making these like brave. I would be up on that. I would be up on that platform like, fuck all of you. Like, all the way to hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're going out like that, I don't think anyone is eloquent in that situation. I think if you are eloquent, you're eloquent in the, what's her face from Good Omens? That woman who,
Agnes Nutter.
Where you request being burned at the stake because you filled your petticoats with gunpowder and nails.
I mean, I guess theoretically, the reason people were, like, humble or whatever is because they do believe in an afterlife, and they did believe that, like, they had to go out on good terms with God or something? I don't know.
I think it's just marketing. I think the whole, you're just doing what you had to do, I accept my... I feel like that's just marketing and they were just screaming.
But there were so many people there. They were like big events.
I feel like it's easy to lie about that sort of historical thing.
I just feel like we would have more first-hand accounts of people being like, yeah, she got up there and she was like, fuck all of you all!
But anyway, the guy...
the point is, it is normal to scream when you are being killed regardless of your preparation for that moment.
Yes. Paige goes into the office. She sees the guy being attacked by demons. She takes out one of the demons, but then the guy pushes her out of the way.
The guy being the human.
The human guy, Larry. He pushes her out of the way and takes a fireball for her, which I guess is self-sacrifice, although... he's kind of the reason the whole situation is happening in the first place, but like he does jump in front of a energy ball for her. So,
well, I mean, it's very within his character because he made a deal with a demon to achieve the vast wealth that he achieved, but he's very concerned with making sure that the money is used for good after his demise. So, we're meant to feel for him. He made a deal with a demon, but he's a genuinely good guy.
Yeah, and also, like, theoretically in this sort of situation, wouldn't, like, if you could sell your soul to a demon and, like, cure all cancer, wouldn't that be the good thing to do?
Yes.
Like I know selling your soul is inherently an evil act, but this is one of the cases where I feel like it might be mitigated by whatever you're selling it for.
Well, okay, so we do understand, and I guess we're kind of jumping around a little bit here. We do understand from the story he tells us that he did sell his soul for selfish reasons. It was to be rich and successful.
Yeah.
It's just that then he realized that, like, material goods are not what it's all about.
Yeah.
He didn't have that revelation until after he sold his soul, though. I really thought we were going to do Devil and Daniel Webster thing here.
Yeah, that did seem like it was the direction this was going to head in.
Because they make a point of, like, introducing us to his wife. I really did think they were going to go with the Devil and Daniel Webster, or, as you're probably more familiar with, the Simpsons episode that ripped it off.
The Devil and Homer Simpson.
Right. Not ripped it off. The Treehouse of Horror episode that was a play on that.
Yeah, the Treehouse of Horrors draw directly from source material. Like, there's a bit in the South Park episode.
Oh, wait, I just want to say real quick. His soul already belonged to his wife because he had already pledged it to her when they got married, so he couldn't sell it to a demon.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a bit in the South Park episode The Simpsons did it.
Yeah.
Where, the whole episode, Butters has been really neurotic because every plan that he makes is something the Simpsons have already done.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the episode, he points out that one of the other characters' subplots is something the Simpsons already did. And they're like, yeah, the Simpsons has been on for like 20 years. It's done a lot of stuff other people have done. And they list out a bunch of examples. And I don't remember how many. Some of them weren't, but at least a couple of them were from Halloween episodes. And I'm like, well, the Halloween episodes are directly, like, the Shinning episode is not trying to trick you into thinking it's an original story.
Well, this episode, I'm sorry, I only have vague memories of the South Park episode, but isn't the plot that was ripping off the Simpsons plot the Lisa growing a whole village on her science fair project, which was also a Halloween episode that was a takeoff of a Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah, they point out that's the thing where Butters is like, the Simpsons did it, and they're like, yeah, and they stole it from the Twilight Zone. And it's like, they didn't steal it from the Twilight Zone.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's splitting hairs if they're doing it on purpose and they're really upfront about it, but I guess doesn't technically make it not stealing, but...
Okay, so...
It's Shinning.
I'm gonna be like a lit major here.
Okay.
It's not... And I don't think South Park is saying that it's stealing. I know they use the word stealing, but I don't think they're saying that it's stealing, but rather that these texts are in conversation with each other, just as their show is in conversation with The Simpsons, which it absolutely is. So I don't think that's I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think it's important that texts be in like. Texts don't exist in a vacuum, and we wouldn't want them to. They would be worse for being like that, for existing in a vacuum.
This is at best tangentially related to that, but I saw this video which I ended up watching, which was tracking all of the times Family Guy has referenced Bob's Burgers, and it's really interesting. It was only like a 3-minute video. But it's really interesting because the early stuff is them taking pot shots at Bob's Burgers. Like, there's Chris got in trouble because of how ugly his art project was, and then it's a picture of, the Bob's Burgers, the Belchers.
Uh-huh.
But over time, it becomes this kind of thing where it's like acknowledging that Bob's Burgers is a show people like more than Family Guy.
I had no idea that they had ever referenced Bob's Burgers. I mean, I guess I would have assumed they had, but how random.
Yeah, like, it's weird. I haven't watched Family Guy in a really long time. I'll watch clips when they cross my...
Yeah, I just see whatever comes up on my TikTok.
But I heard stuff that it might be better now than it was for a while there. I don't know. I I revisited the first few seasons of a couple years back because I was like, it used to be so much better when, they reined Seth MacFarlane in some. And the first couple of seasons are not as good as I remember them being, but I also watched them initially for the first time when I was in middle school, so... Which is
Wait, what is our rule?
I'm sorry, yes. But... It might be an age demographic thing. I might have aged out of Family Guy. Which coincided with Seth MacFarlane getting way more creative control, so them just going gross and dark over the top all the time.
No, I was in college. I remember it being better in the first few seasons.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the stuff, like...
But a lot of it was also shocking, right? It's not shocking anymore.
Yeah. Well, the first episode, and I know you can't judge a show by its pilot. I know that's bad. You give the first few episodes a pass. In some cases, the whole first season. But, like, literally the first joke in Family Guy is about Jemima's witnesses.
Yeah, I remember.
Like... I'm sorry, Charmed.
It was a weak joke. So, yeah.
And that was their pilot. That was the joke that you were selling the show on.
So, wait, is that the first joke? I feel like the first joke is...
Well, they're watching the
Brady Bunch and...
But it's dark because, like, they make Greg jump in a snake pit and Marcia gets, like, 20 lashes because she kissed a boy or something.
Yeah, I feel weird that I remember from however long ago it was that I watched the first episode that's actually the first joke.
Yeah, but, like, the Jemima's Witnesses thing is the button that takes
I remember it. Because the Bradys live in a rough neighborhood.
Yeah. Could you make a Brady Bunch reference these days, or would that just be lost?
I have no idea.
I was thinking about, like, all of these things that used to be really common cultural touch points. People, like, I don't think anyone would get a Gilligan's Island reference, like...
Well, I think about all of the places that I learned my old references, and it's Nick at Night.
Yeah.
And it's Muppet Babies. And I feel like kids' shows aren't as, like, invested in hooking in boomers by referencing old pop culture, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but so that doesn't exist. And with, terrestrial TV going away and it all being streaming now, the whole concept of Nick at Night doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah.
So... Even though Nick at Night does actually still exist, and not only does it still exist, but there's a whole TV Land channel. But who has cable anymore?
Yeah, like my experience, my parents limited my TV time as a kid, so then as an adult I got caught up. No, but my TV time was limited. But even then, I remember doing the thing where you watch something...
Sorry, I just need to throw this out here.
Yeah.
My parents didn't limit my TV time at all. So, those of you out there trying to figure out how to make your kids not BS, there's literally no way.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, that's the world we live in now. But yeah, but I remember watching stuff just because it was on. And our kid's never going to have that. They made 45 seasons of Paw Patrol. She got back into Paw Patrol recently, which...
I tried so hard to keep her away from Paw Patrol.
It's fine. It's fine. My folks have to be so... And you, honestly, probably have to be so sick of me complaining about Paw Patrol. It's not bad. It's fine. Why don't they have more girl dogs?
Why?
But...
It's just monkeys singing songs, mate.
Yeah, I think she's watched 90 hours of it in the past day. I don't know, time folds around that show. It's very weird, but you know what? I'll take it over those, like, videos of Russian kids playing with dolls that she watches sometimes, where they're, like, overdubbed by the adults doing kid voice. That stuff feels, like, cursed.
It feels like really exploitative of the kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I will say though? A couple of weeks ago, I took her to see the Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie, because it was replaying in theaters because it's like the 35-year anniversary or something. And this morning, she wanted to go see the Muppet movie again.
Aw.
So, our kid does also have good taste, in addition to unfortunately watching Paw Patrol.
I mean, I get it though. It's a bunch of dogs. Like,
Yeah, no, who doesn't like dogs?
yeah, she liked 101 Dalmatians. The animated one, obviously. No offense to Glenn Close,
Well, yeah, obviously.
but she could have watched the.
We could have played that one for her.
I mean, but we didn't because we love her, and you know, the original. It's thin on plot, but the animation is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sketchy Xerox animation. Do you want to talk about Charmed?
Yeah, we should get back to Charmed. We're very off topic at this point. So,
Phoebe's complaining about how busy she is, and Piper's like, oh.
try being a mom. Also, I'm a single mom who's dating, and I own a club sometimes. But Phoebe has to deal with the slimy male advice columnist who Elise tried to get her to work with earlier. He's back again, and now she has to, like, co-write her column with him so that they can have, like, you know, you get advice from, like, a feminist go-getter super sexy woman and a super sexist slimy douchebag, which I guess I can see as being a selling point, but isn't Ask Phoebe, like, the most popular article in the world? Why would you need this angle on it all of a sudden?
I mean, it's a thing. It's a real life thing where they will have two advice columnists do takes on the same letter. Like, it's not totally out there. You know what's weird is that in 2009...
are we going to talk about that Gerard Way, Katherine Heigl, Gerard Butler? Gerard Way is a completely different person.
I wasn't going to talk about it. I was just looking quickly to see what year it came out.
The Ugly Truth.
Yes, yeah, it has the same plot as this episode.
Which, oh my god, in The Ugly Truth they did a thing. I know I've mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again. I'm sorry, we will talk about this episode at some point. But in The Ugly Truth, like, Gerard Butler's character's like this proto-manosphere major sexist guy who has a radio show where he tells men to treat women awful so they'll want to sleep with them.
He's basically Andrew Tate without the, like, human trafficking arrest.
Yeah. That ties directly into what I'm about to say.
Oh, love it. Okay.
Because later, when Katherine Heigl gets mad at him because she fell in love with him, God, that woman does not choose good projects to be a part of. I'm sorry, I think she actually wrote that movie with her mom, so...
She didn't.
She didn't write it with her mom?
She didn't write it at all.
Oh, okay.
I literally just looked up to see who wrote it, because I was going to say, X stole this plot in 2009 for The Ugly Truth, and there's like 10 writers.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like that was probably floating around for a while.
But anyway, like, after she fires him because he broke her heart or whatever, they replace him with a guy who's supposed to make him look like... They're like, oh, we got this guy, and the guy basically immediately starts advocating rape because that's the only way you can make Gerard Butler's character look like, oh, no, he's actually a good guy, even though he's saying all of these awful things about women.
Right, yeah, you have to have the really terrible guy so that the just normally misogynistic guy looks like a viable option in romantic comedies.
Yeah, it's such a thing in those movies. Like in Good Luck Chuck, the Dane Cook movie about Dane Cook's magic penis.
Well, I mean, it's Barney's entire role in How I Met Your Mother.
And it didn't work.
No, I like him so much more than Ted.
Yeah, in Good Luck Chuck, it's his best friend is, you know, that character.
Uh-huh.
And he's that guy you get when you can't get Josh Gad. He's like the next level down from Josh Gad.
Oh, yeah, I think I know who you mean.
I think he was the main guy in Balls of Fury. That ping pong, like the, you know, oh, it's a movie about ping pong, but we're doing it as this, like, epic sports thing. Terry Crews was in it for, like, one scene. Dan Fogler. It must have been so embarrassing for him when Josh Gad became the guy you got when you wanted that kind of guy. You don't want to spend Jonah Hill money.
Yeah. So...
Charmed. Yeah.
So, Piper's plot is that she's going on a bunch of dates because...
men keep on being scared off when they find out that she's a single mom, so she set up 3 dates where she's going to immediately spring Wyatt on them today. Also, Phoebe is bringing the potion she used to turn the guy into a turkey the last time she had to work with him. She's bringing that potion with her to work just in case. Which, you did that when you were under a spell last time.
Yeah.
But this time you're just prepared to turn this man into a farm animal for no reason. I mean, outside
Not
of
no
him
reason.
Yeah. Okay, but last time you used magic on him, you were under a spell that made you, like, it amplified your worst traits or whatever. This time you're just like, you know what, I'm going to have this right off the bat.
Also, Phoebe is immediately proving the point you were making about office attire in Charmed being, like, a sliding scale, because she is going into the office and she's wearing the croppedest crop top ever.
Okay, I can see how this outfit would work in theory. It does not in practice. I mean, like, having like a black crop top and then a white longer shirt underneath it, yeah, I could see that working. I think it would need to. What?
No, I think it looks cute. It's just not work appropriate.
Yes. But like if the white part went further down, I think it would be a nice.
If you could see no belly as opposed to 5 inches of belly, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Also, God, Alyssa Milano must do so many crunches.
Oh my God, yeah, she's got like Britney Spears abs going on right now.
Like, I do not blame her. I would never wear a shirt if I had abs
right?
like that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, but going back to Piper.
Yeah.
Why are you inviting guys over to spring Wyatt on them instead of just telling them you have a son?
Okay.
Why are we wasting everyone's time and gas money right now?
Yeah. Also, where are we meeting these men? Where, like, if it's the internet, why not just put that you're a mom on the profile? I know this is pre-internet.
It's 2002. I don't think 2001, 2002. I don't feel like this is.
Okay, then how did she line up 3 dates for one day? That in the age pre-internet dating, that feels like it would be impossible to do.
Right?
Like, how do you not to be a millennial here, but how would you even meet people like that?
I mean, I guess theoretically she could be responding to, like, newspaper personals.
Ugh.
She could be doing video dating, a thing that only exists on television.
Including Charmed.
But luckily Charmed is on television. Yeah, I guess she could be asking friends to set her up on blind dates, but in that case...
Just lead with the...
Well, but they're kind of vetted already, right? Because her... Well, I mean, I know she doesn't have any friends, but her theoretical friends know she has a child and wouldn't set her up with somebody for whom that would be an issue.
She has friends when she needs them. Remember the male stripper La Rue party from last episode?
Oh my God. Anyway, Paige comes home and she's obviously really upset, and, you know, she's been out all night, and Phoebe's like, hey, what's wrong? I feel like I should ask you some questions, even though I'm going to become completely distracted and,
I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to talk about yourself before I make it about me.
Which, honestly, for Phoebe is like Mother Teresa levels.
So, Paige tells them that she's upset because an innocent got killed at her temp job last night. And, she's like, I should have saved him. And Piper's like, we can't save everyone. And Paige is like, a man died in front of me, Piper. I still feel like I can be upset about that.
And didn't just die in front of me, but, like, my innocence saved me. That's not the way it's supposed to go.
And she talks about how, like, he didn't seem surprised that they were there. Like, clearly something was going on. And then Piper was like, oh, so maybe he wasn't so innocent after all. No loss.
Okay, see, this is the part where I know that I'm terrible because I'm agreeing with Piper.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, he knew what he was doing. He made a deal.
I mean, I don't get why the innocent knows that demons exist and wasn't surprised that they were hunting him means Piper thinks he wasn't innocent. Because, like, a lot of the time...
He sold his soul.
She doesn't know that.
I mean, she guessed it. We all guessed it. It hasn't... You and I are talking about it. It hasn't been revealed in the episode yet. And you and I already knew that was what the deal was.
All Piper knows is that a guy got killed at Paige's job and he didn't seem surprised that demons existed. That is not enough information to extrapolate the selling the soul thing.
And listen, I'm not saying that there aren't good reasons to sell your soul, but I am saying that good people usually don't.
So Piper's like, look, a guy died, it happens, get over it, just let it go and move on. And Paige is like, no, I'm gonna be really annoying about this.
Piper's like, we're the charmed ones, we can't save anyone. I mean, everyone.
So Paige is going to keep on keeping on and try to find the demons that killed the guy, which, fine, who cares? You know, Piper and Phoebe watch her go upstairs and they shake their head. But who cares? Fighting demons is what you do. It's fine.
Okay, in an unrelated plot that I really wish had been, like...
the main plot. I love this plot so much. It should have been the main plot.
We should have had so much more of this plot. It should have been so much more fleshed out. Anyway, Leo's looking for Chris because he's super suspicious.
Leo, a divine being who is ascended beyond the mortal plane, has come back down to Earth, put on a pair of cargo pants, and went to hunt down Chris. I'm sorry, the fact that he's wearing cargo pants... He is an elder. He's like one of the main guardians of good in this universe. Why are you wearing cargo pants? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like cargo pants, but I'm not a celestial being. I feel like you should dress for the job that you have. I mean, I guess...
No, right? No, the joke is dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? And the job he has is an elder, but the job he wants is middle-aged dad.
You know what? Fair.
Thank you.
So, he's been tracking down Chris, who is the most suspicious man on Earth.
So Chris is trying to get back to his home time, even though the elders told him not to, and also he said it was impossible.
He's like, look, I'm trying to stop something bad from happening to Wyatt, and I need to stop evil from getting Wyatt. So I'm going to go back to the future to see if evil's still ruling the future, and if it is, then I know I didn't succeed.
Right, he's like, am I done here? I think I'm done here.
Because Leo wants to bring him in for questioning again, and Chris is like, last episode, wasn't I supposed to be on trial for murdering all those Valkyries? And then you were like, whatever, you helped Piper out. I'm going to not be suspicious of you anymore. And then this episode, we're back to you being suspicious of me.
Look, this is all just a long walk to get us to Chris's unstable time portal.
Yeah. Leo notices it because Chris is very bad at hiding the fact that he is an unstable time portal. And Leo's like, I don't believe you that this is an unstable time portal. I'm going to tackle you through it and see what happens. He tackles Chris through it, and they end up way, way, way back in time, back in dinosaur times. And they immediately get attacked by a CGI T-Rex, and Chris just ditches Leo. It's fantastic. Chris sees the dinosaur and books it before Leo even notices that there's a dinosaur there.
I love that this show decided to do a CGI T-Rex. This is amazing to me. It looks so
awful. I love it so much. Why wasn't this the main plot? I'm sorry, this is a show about, powerful women and et cetera, but I just want the shitty Chris Leo plots. So Paige is comforting the widow. This is like the next day. They threw this memorial thing together fast.
Oh no, I don't think it's a memorial. I thought the widow was just at the office, and everybody was talking to her about what had happened.
I mean, maybe it seems like Paige apologizes for monopolizing her time, which maybe...
maybe you're right. Maybe it is a memorial. Huh. Although he knew he was going to die, so it makes sense if he would have had everything in place. In fact, this is what happens when Paige is talking to the widow. She's like... First of all, the widow says, I'm glad he wasn't alone at the end, which I think is, a really... I don't know. That affects me emotionally. But then Paige is like, look, I want to ask you a kind of weird question, but he was acting like he knew he was going to die. Does that seem unusual to you? And, oh, by the way, I guess when you get fireballed by a demon, your heart stops, so everyone assumes he just had, a random heart attack.
Yeah, this is one of the rare instances in Charmed where being hit with an energy ball doesn't immediately disintegrate you. This usually happens to humans too. I mean, I know it's definitely a demon thing, but we've seen regular ass humans get obliterated by energy balls. But in this case, it just stopped his heart, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah.
Electricity, right? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, this isn't a memorial because they're definitely at the office.
But there's this weird bit where this older woman's like, I'm sorry, I have to go, but, you know, blah, blah, blah.
I think she's just another woman who works at the office who wanted to, like, pay her respects to this woman who... I think she probably just came to pick up his effects or whatever. Anyway, she tells Paige that Paige is not out of line to ask this question or even to think this thing, because he really did seem to have some sort of premonition about what was going to happen. It's how he played the markets so well. He got so rich, so I guess it's not wild to think that maybe he did know... you know, something.
Yeah, they were in a really bad financial position, and then something changed, and suddenly he started just making all of the right choices, and honestly, it doesn't come up. I would assume that he had developed a precognitive ability, and that's why he wasn't surprised about the whole demons thing.
That would make more sense, honestly. But that's not what... that would have been an interesting story. That's not what the story is, though.
Paige's boyfriend... you might remember him. He's the guy from the witch family that was having the Montague Capulet thing, or Hatfields and McCoys if you prefer. With the other witch family, he's here and he's like, "Hi, Paige. I retired from witchcraft, but I can still help you out on this whole investigating demons thing. Also, I'm, one of the idle rich, so I don't really have. I have a ton of free time, so I'm just gonna hang out with you all day and help you out with your thing."
Yep. Meanwhile, Phoebe arrives at work, and the guy is sitting at her desk with his feet up on the desk, and he is trashing all of the letters she's gotten. He's like, they're all from women with their gross women problems. Like, dude, you're an advice columnist.
Yeah, he's like, this one wants to be closer to mommy, and this one wants to know if she should break up with her boyfriend.
But it's yeah, you're gonna get a lot of weird questions about relationships, dude. That's who writes into advice columnists.
Phoebe turns him into a turkey with the turkey potion, and she looks at him for a little bit, and then she's like, and she throws the unturkeying potion at him, and he unturkeys, and he's like, did something just happen? She's like,
So, at the club, Piper has brought Wyatt. Her date meets her, and she's like, "Hey, thanks for coming to the club I own instead of meeting me at the restaurant, because my babysitter fell through, so now I'm bringing a literal toddler on our date. What do you think about that? You cool with that? You still want to date me?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's cool. I like kids. Kids are cool." And he's like, "Let's go do something more kid-friendly than what I had planned, but sure." And then Piper leaves to go get her purse, and then Wyatt, gives this guy the literal evil eye, causing him to freak out and run out of the club. Wyatt is cursing this guy because he wants to keep him away from his mom.
Yeah, Wyatt's basically that old lady from 72 Yards Away or whatever from that latest episode of Doctor Who, except I think we're actually several episodes.
It was 5 episodes ago, but yeah.
Yeah, because, Wyatt does the... I don't think we're supposed to think he's actually casting a fear spell thing. I think we're supposed to see that he's just manifesting his powers, but...
Oh, no. I thought he was casting a fear spell.
I mean, it would make more sense. It doesn't work on Richard, which is the main reason I think that's not supposed to be what he was doing. But maybe Richard has magic resistance or whatever, because, also a witch.
I mean, I think we're to understand that Wyatt is trying to drive these guys away.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what... I think the thing is just, is he actively using fear magic, or is he just revealing magic, and these guys are having, I'm sorry, I feel oversized reactions to it?
Well, no, I think it's a fear spell.
Yeah.
So, that's an appropriate reaction to a fear spell.
So, the guy runs screaming out of the room, and Piper comes back, and she's like, I knew it. He wasn't cool with me being a single mother.
Oh, it's kind of funny when you put it that way.
I mean, also, I wouldn't want to keep dating Piper because of how weirdly aggro she was about the whole baby thing.
Right?
When she revealed Wyatt, she's like, what, do you have a problem with it? And it's like, I have a problem with you talking to me in that tone of voice.
Yes! Like, I have a problem with the weirdness of you not, like, calling and giving me a heads up or canceling or... Yeah, I have a problem with you not canceling. Like, you can't just bring a baby on a date. I'm sorry. If you're a single parent who's dating, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And later on in the relationship, you're probably... When you reach the point where you're ready to introduce your partner to your children, which, by the way, should be a little further down the line, like, it makes sense for you to have, like, nights that are just you chilling at home and doing family stuff. That's totally normal. But it's not normal to bring a toddler on a date. That's weird.
I don't get why she's so aggressive about the fact that she has a kid. Like, that's normal information. You don't be like you don't go into this conversation already pre-angry that someone might reject you for having a kid.
Okay, this reminds me of guys on Tinder.
I'm not 6 feet tall. You know, I'm 5'8" if that matters.
Okay, so it's like, I'm 6'2" because apparently that matters. It's like, okay, well, calm down. Like, you could just not date, right? You don't have to come in so hot.
So we go from, Piper's date very much not going well
to Paige's date that is going well.
Yeah, it's her and Richard, and they're walking down the street, and this is such a minor thing, but there's an extra who is kind of behind them, and the continuity on that guy is so terrible. He's constantly in a different position behind them during this entire walk. Like, it's a little thing, and I don't think it detracts from the scene at all.
I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about the thing that you liked, which is that Richard is kind of distant from his family right now. It turns out that when they don't have a common enemy, when they're not in the middle of a feud, they're not actually that close. They all have kind of gone their separate ways.
Yeah. It turns out the whole Hatfields and McCoy thing was the only thing that was keeping his family together, and now he's basically all alone in his big family manor, and he's, trying to avoid doing magic because it brought his family nothing but bad, ness.
Okay, I've gone to rewatch to see the deal with the extra. Why would you not just clear the street behind them? Like, why have a guy behind them? It's just gonna mess things up.
He walks out of frame like 3 separate times, and then he resets to being in the frame.
I mean, it took a while for it took you pointing this out for me to notice it and get bugged by it, so I guess it's not that big a deal, but it seems like such an easy thing to not have an issue with.
Yeah. But honestly, I like Richard. He is...
I do too. I wish Richard was her end game instead of that weird cop she ends up with.
And it's especially
Spoilers.
odd. Yeah. It's especially odd because I hate the conceit of Richard's character, which is a season 6 of Buffy, Willow magic is an addiction thing. Like, Richard has a problem with abusing magic. And it's basically kind of a light version of the Cole thing, where, Cole's trying to avoid using his demon powers because they, make him evil or whatever. It's sort of a light version of that, and it's a plot I never care for. I don't like magic as a metaphor for drugs plots, but you know what? I like Richard fine. It's cool having someone who is a magic-aware character as part of the cast.
It would have been cool if his plot, and now I'm just going to rewrite all of Charmed. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
What would have been cool is if his deal was not that he was addicted to magic and had to give it up, but rather that he saw all the problems magic caused and gave it up for those reasons, which kind of does fit in with his backstory. And that then you could have him as a foil to Piper, who's always like, oh, magic causes so much problems, but so many. Magic is so hard, but this would be like the reflection. Okay, but when you don't have magic in your life, this is what your life is like. It would be kind of a cool contrast.
Yeah, and like Balthazar Getty's a good enough actor. I really thought he was in more stuff. I googled it, and he's really not in that much stuff, but like he's good. He's a good love interest for Paige. Something she doesn't really get much of. Her end love interest, her endgame love interest is fine, but like Paige never really gets notable love interests. Like, Prue had Andy. Piper, we don't love it, but Piper has Leo. And Phoebe had Cole. Like, everyone really...
And don't forget the true love of her life.
Herself. Coop. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, herself. No, you're right. Yours is funnier.
But it feels like everyone in Charmed had one iconic love interest except for Paige. Honestly, I feel like they should have done more with her best friend character.
Yeah.
Although I'm guessing the guy probably just didn't want to come back for the show. But yeah, I like Henry. Henry is an interesting, cool character. I'm sorry to keep complimenting the male characters on the show. Let's see more Chris and Leo. Let's see more Henry. Piper and Phoebe. Although, God, Phoebe's plot is such a nothing burger this episode.
Alright, so down in hell, they're auctioning off souls.
I really feel like the auctioneer guy should be someone, but eh.
You know who he really reminds me of is the ringmaster character from Moulin Rouge.
Oh, I can see that. I feel like who's the guy who plays Mr. Peanut Butter?
Paul F. Tompkins?
Yeah, I really feel like he's a Paul F. Tompkins type.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where I almost looked up if it was Paul F. Tompkins, but I knew it wasn't. Yeah. But he's auctioning off the guy's soul. What's his face?
Larry.
Yeah, he's auctioning off Larry's soul when... I love how Henry's like, if you want to talk to the dead guy, why don't you just
You mean Richard?
Yes, Richard. I think I called him Henry before, too.
You did, but I thought you were talking about the...
No. Richard suggested to Paige that she just, summon the dead guy's ghost if she wants answers because she's a witch and she can just do that. And she does that in the middle of the demon auction. The guy gets voiped back up to the land of the living because Paige is a witch and you can just cast ghost. You can just summon ghosts whenever. And Larry's like, okay, look, I
entered into a contract absolutely knowing what it entailed, and now I'm ready to uphold my end of it, so send me back to hell.
And Paige is like, no, I need to, save you. And Richard's like, dude, just let her help you. She's going to be really, really... She's not going to not help you.
I do like this because he's like, wait, do I know you? And Richard's like... not really, a little bit. You were my family's lawyer because we're all magicked up and you're like a demon lawyer, so we interacted, we ran in the same circles. I like that! I like that they ran in the same circles!
Yeah. Honestly, I'm getting more and more into Richard. I know this is probably not a thing for him, but the fact that he has a little scar in one of his eyebrows really makes him look kind of magic-y.
Yes.
Well, it's like... James Marsters having the
that's
scar.
exactly what I was thinking of.
When it's just he got mugged and the guy attacked him with a knife. Like, it wasn't an aesthetic choice, but it adds to the character. But
yep.
Also, God, it's so distracting. The demon that Larry sold his soul to
is Steve Zahn.
Yeah, it's Zahn, and I'm like, there's a really famous actor.
Really famous?
Steve Zahn's pretty famous, especially in the...
Pretty famous. Yeah, I go pretty famous.
He's enough of a name so that it's weird that they chose it for the name of the demon. They should have had him be played by Steve Zahn. He was a gettable person. That would have been fun.
So Piper comes home. She's got Wyatt with her. She's like, why are you summoning ghosts in our living room? And Paige is like, because we're the charmed ones. It's literally like what we do.
It's a basic witch thing, Piper.
Piper is such a bitch to Paige right now because she's like, how dare you do something dangerous when I have a child in the house? And it's like, what?
Yeah, and this
is like literally what we do. What the hell is wrong with you?
And she's like, why are you trying to save him? He's already dead. And Paige is like, yeah, and he's in hell where he doesn't belong. And Piper's like, if he sold his soul, doesn't that mean he belongs in hell?
Also, she's like, did you even check the Book of Shadows for this demon? And it's like, no, we just learned his name 60 seconds ago. Also, your baby has like an invulnerability bubble around him. Why are you being so mean to Paige?
Yeah, she talks about how, like, she's like, look, I know you're trying to be Little Miss Independent or whatever, but you can't just go off and do whatever you want and go off on your own little witch missions whenever you want. You need to involve us. And also, don't involve us, because I don't care about fucking Larry's soul.
Right? Maybe Paige wouldn't need to be Little Miss Independent if you and Phoebe had any interest in, I don't know, being the charmed ones. Like, really? What the hell? See, this is the other reason why I wish they had used Richard more, because poor Paige.
Yeah, it's nice for her to have, like, a character who's on her side and isn't awful to her all the time for no reason.
I am so Team Paige this rewatch. Like, unbelievably Team Paige.
I also like how they didn't even do the ghost effect with Larry. She did the ghost summoning spell and he's just bodily there.
I like how Larry is totally inconsequential to all of these dealings. Like, she goes back into the room with Richard and she's like, all right, I'm going to go into the Book of Shadows and figure out how to save Larry. And Larry's like, please just send me back. This doesn't involve you, Larry!
Meanwhile, in dinosaur times, Chris and Leo are still being chased by a dinosaur.
On the Gourd planet.
Yeah, and Leo's like, Chris, you can't outrun a dinosaur. And Chris is like, yeah, but I can outrun you. Chris, Leo is your dad and you haven't been conceived yet. If Leo gets eaten by a dinosaur, you will also die.
Okay, so they hide underneath a rock, like the hobbits.
Yeah.
And the T-Rex's foot comes down on the ground, and the camera is too close to the T-Rex's foot. You can see it is not interacting properly with the ground. Oh my god, I love it. I love it so much.
It's fantastic. And Chris says something which I think... Okay, Chris is like, why can't we orb? And...
Oh yeah, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah, this is really interesting because theoretically I'm like, okay, well, normally you can't use your powers if you go back in time to a point where you haven't been born yet, except clearly that's not the case for Chris. They have a throwaway line explaining that later.
Uh-huh.
But Leo explains that since people aren't around yet, magic doesn't exist, which I think is...
so...
It's so cool. It's so cool that magic and humanity are, like, inherently a tied together thing here.
Yes.
So, Leo's like, why were you trying to go back to dinosaur times? And Chris is like, the portal isn't exact. And Leo's like, it was pretty exact when you were going back in time to mess around with me and my family. And Chris is like, okay, well, that was a different circumstance. That was a time portal I created and not a time portal I found and was trying to recombobulate to send me to the place I want to go. I had a man-made one, which is different from a naturally occurring one.
Also, Leo is like, I don't care about your problems. I'm just trying to get home. And it's like, that's what Chris is trying to do too, Leo. Also, so maybe get all the way off his back.
Also, this whole situation is directly your fault for tackling Chris through a time portal.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to get rid of Chris, just shove him through the time portal. You didn't need to come along on this little journey.
So back at the manor, it has come up that Phoebe and Piper and Paige have all tried calling for Leo and Chris, and neither of them are coming. And they're like, man, our whitelighters suck.
So Piper has called Phoebe to complain about Paige, and
Phoebe's like, I thought we were going to give her more independence. Remember we had that whole conversation? And Piper's like, yeah, independence to do what we want her to do, not independence to do dumb things.
Yeah. So, Piper's second of her 3 dates is here, so she's grabbing her baby to shove it into his face as soon as he walks through the door. And this is one of the bad scenarios at Phoebe's office where she's leaving to go home in the middle of the workday, and the sexist, awful pig monster man pulls her aside and he's like, we're at work right now. Like, you can't just leave. And he's a horrible monster, but yeah, no, you can't just leave work in the middle of the day.
So, apparently Phoebe has more than one potion because she...
Should we talk about the letter he wants them to do?
Okay, so we have a segment where I have gathered together a crew of advice column fanatics to Ask Phoebe letters, and she became Ask Phoebe 2 seasons ago, and in that time I have had to call on them once. We have gotten one Ask Phoebe letter in that time period. And you asked me if I was going to like put out the ham kitten signal for this letter, and I did not, because it would be an insult to them because of the letter that this guy found for the two of them to answer. Okay, that's the setup. Please tell our listeners what the letter is.
Dear Ask Phoebe, I like really, really big boobs on women, but the woman that I want to date has really small boobs. Should I date her or not? Signed, Boobless in, I don't know, Boston.
Bethesda.
Oof, that's better.
Thank you.
California.
It's in Maryland.
Yeah. Well, that's closer than Boston. But that's not a real letter.
No. That's a letter. That's a letter. This is just my headcanon. That's the letter that Eric Dane put in, Jason, Phoebe's boyfriend, put in there as a joke because he thought it was charming that he's into Phoebe even though her boobs are not ginormous. I mean, they're not small.
I was about to say, Alyssa Milano does not lack in the boob department.
But, like, he put that in as, like, a joke for Phoebe, like an ill-formed joke for Phoebe. That's my theory.
So, given Ask Phoebe's rules, she would have to answer that letter anyway.
Right? She answers every letter!
Yeah.
Huh.
So, Piper's second date comes to the door, and he's somewhat off-put by the fact that she opens the door with the baby and is like, I have a baby, what do you think about that? Why is she being so confrontational about this? And he's like, I'm surprised, but it's fine. People have babies.
She's like, some people see baby and they head for the hills. And he's like, well, baby wasn't the plan, but I'm not, like, against mothers.
Yeah.
What is happening right now?
And he's like, did I pass this test? And she's like, you passed with flying colors. And then Wyatt shoots him with the
fear spell.
The fear spell, like Piper hears Paige calling from upstairs, and she turns around, and then,
Wyatt hits him with the fear spell, and then
he runs screaming into the night.
He runs screaming, which is literally what she said she was worried guys would do. Meanwhile, up in the attic, the demon has shown up to reclaim Larry, and Larry's like, this is not me. This witch just decided to help me out. I told her that we had a deal and that I entered into it with full knowledge.
Yeah, and Paige is having trouble trying to vanquish the guy, and she's like, the Book of Shadows said you were low level. And he's like, when was that written? Like, time has passed. Things changed. I did a bunch of demon Pilates, and now I'm high level.
Well, more specifically, he got into this soul-selling business, and he sells souls to demons, and they pay him in powers. So now he's just got, like, a shit ton of powers.
Yeah.
Okay, this really bugs me. Later on, we see the auction, and people are like, I bid 4 powers, and someone else is like, I bid 10 powers. It's like, yeah, but all powers aren't created equal, man.
Yeah, like, some of them have to be, like, acid spit or, like, dog detection.
Yeah, those two vastly different powers. Unless the powers have, like, their own ranking system, so when you say I bid 3 powers, you could actually just mean 1 level 3 power.
Mm.
And there's, like, some other organization that, like, takes care of ranking the powers for purposes of monetary exchange. I'm giving a lot of backstory for something that was not considered.
No, I'm totally assuming that it's like one person has like 50 different kinds of teleportation. There's like, shimmering, glimmering, flaming out, dark orbing, regular orbing. Like someone has just spent all this time collecting all these different teleportations, and I'm going to buy a human soul for 20 different kinds of teleporting, blinking.
Oh, God.
Because those all count as individual separate powers, right?
They do.
They each have their own Wikipedia article on the Charmed Wiki.
Anyway, Piper runs upstairs and she gets thrown into a wall and knocked unconscious, just proving her point that Paige should do nothing and everyone would be happier.
Yeah, and Larry's like, please stop beating up these women and take me back to hell. And the guy's like, fine. Zahn's like, yeah, okay. And he blurps Larry back to hell, and now Paige is sad again.
And then later on, after Piper has woken up and Phoebe's back home, they're giving Paige a hard time for trying.
Phoebe turned the male advice columnist into a pig.
We skipped over that. You're right. Anyway, they're giving Paige a hard time for trying to save souls.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, Piper's point is that, because Paige is like, look, we need to find where Zahn is keeping all of the soul contracts and then destroy all the contracts, because Zahn made it very clear that part of the contracts is that the souls super extra go to hell if he gets vanquished. Like,
yes.
they aren't just liberated, they burn with him for all eternity.
That was a good failsafe for him to put in there.
Yeah, but Paige is assuming that destroying the contracts will destroy that clause.
I mean, we talked about this at the top. I think we kind of just have to accept that they underwrote this part of the episode.
Yeah, but Piper comes off like the worst person ever here, because she's like, look, all those souls are already in hell. Who are we? Jesus during that time when he went into hell and, like, broke down the gates and let all those people out?
That happens between Good Friday and Easter, by the way.
Yeah, like, that's not our gig. We're not Jesus. Like, we try to save people's lives, but as soon as they're dead, we don't try to save their souls.
Try is a strong word.
This isn't the first season, and Larry isn't Mark, my ghost boyfriend from the first season, played by John Cho.
Yeah.
And what was a pretty solid episode. You know?
Yeah, no, that was a good episode.
I know they would have ruined it, but I kind of wish they had kept Mark around as a ghost. Like, Piper could have had a ghost boyfriend for a few episodes. That could have been an arc.
Yeah. Better a ghost boyfriend than an angel boyfriend.
I have less harsh opinions on Leo than you do, but...
I really can't stand Leo.
So, Leo falls off a cliff right into a dinosaur's mouth, and...
like the Jurassic Park ride at Universal Studios.
Yeah, and Chris is like...
Oh, no, God. Don't die! I haven't been conceived yet! Yeah. I don't want to fade out like Marty McFly on that other ride at Universal Studios where you also go into a dinosaur's mouth. Man, they had a hard-on for having you go into a dinosaur's mouth at Universal Studios. That ride doesn't exist anymore. It's a Simpsons ride now. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So, Chris, runs down. He pulls Leo out of the dinosaur's mouth, throws him through the unstable time portal, and then dives after him. Which... This whole scene is a lot less altruistic when you remember that, if Leo dies, Chris will also die.
Yep.
But, I mean, I guess it was brave of him to save his dad from a dinosaur.
Yeah, but he throws him right into the middle of a Civil War battle.
Wah wah. But people exist, so theoretically at least one of them should have his magic powers back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since Chris apparently took the potion or whatever that lets you keep your powers when you travel back in time. So
it would be better if he had better powers, but...
I mean...
He can't even heal yet!
Well, in this situation, I think his telekinesis would really come in handy, but I guess he can't use it in front of Leo.
His orbing would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, just orb out. But... back to the present, Paige is talking to... Oh my god, I keep thinking... Richard, I keep conflating it with Henry. I have trouble keeping them straight. But, like, Paige is like, hey, Henry, I have a plan, and it's going to make you really mad, and also it might make you use magic, which I know you're trying to avoid doing, but, like, come on! And, Richard's like, okay, look, I'll help out, fine.
Yeah.
You need to have at least one person on your side here.
She really has, like, no one on her side.
So...
okay, so back in the manor, in the attic, they're like, Phoebe and Piper are talking. They're like, what if Paige tries to save this guy without us? It could be bad. And they're like, she won't try to do it if she can't make a potion. She definitely can't make a potion without us.
Yeah, they're just gonna vanquish this guy and send all of the souls bound to him to super hell forever. Which,
they don't care.
Yeah, and they're talking.
And they're specifically, they're not like vanquishing Zan to keep him from Zahn. They're not vanquishing Zahn for any reason other than to keep Paige from ruining their day by making them do more complicated stuff. They're like, let's vanquish him quick before Paige tries to make us help people.
So, this auction is just about to get started again when Zahn gets blorped away by the Charm Twins, and we hard cut to Larry, who's like rolling his eyes. He's like, Jesus fucking
he gives
Christ.
Such an exasperated sigh. It's kind of hilarious. I definitely love it. But then, before he can materialize in the attic, he materializes in Richard's living room because Paige and Richard were doing the exact same summoning spell at the exact same time. It's like when you had those old landlines and you would call someone and someone else would call simultaneously and you would both get a busy signal because you just hit the button at the exact same time. At least I'm given to understand that could happen, but I was always like, what kind of mad timing would you have to have for that to work?
I was about to say, yeah.
Anyway.
So, I want to point out we didn't mention it when the first auction was happening, but when he's selling souls to people, to demons, he mentions like whether you want them for your collections or to eat them, or a third thing, or use them for manual labor. I guess that would be because souls exist as like human body, like they have bodies in the underworld, I guess. But wouldn't eating them be like the only useful thing you could do with souls?
Okay, we're gonna like recreate the conversation we had when we watched this episode, so the people can hear.
Yeah.
But I think that the deal is that you can't really feel a lot of like good, positive, happy emotions as a demon, and so like you can absorb the human soul and like briefly feel that like moment of emotion and like a brief glimmer of happiness or contentedness or whatever.
Isn't that just eating with extra steps?
Well,
I mean, it's not eating with it, but like...
Is that how you feel when you eat?
No, I just mean like it's a different form of eating.
No, what I realized when I got halfway through explaining this headcanon to you, what it is the plot of the movie Trolls.
I think souls in the underworld should be exclusively for eating. You eat souls and they make your demon powers more powerful. I think that should be the point of... Because, like...
No, they have to give you something else because you spend your powers to get a human soul, so it has to give you something other than powers, something not related to powers.
Well, I would just assume it would enhance any leftover powers you already had, or make you stronger so that you're less likely to be vanquished by, like, Piper's explodey power or whatever.
Maybe.
Like, you give up, I don't know, fireball generation to get better invulnerability or more strength or whatever.
I'm going to stick with it's purely hedonistic, that it gives you pleasure to absorb the souls. I'm going to stick with that.
In the weirdly good episode of The Simpsons, The Surf Sins, which is a... the whole episode takes place in vague medieval times, and, the premise is that it's The Simpsons in this, like, medieval fantasy world. And Homer works in a misery mill. It's basically this giant wheel that all of the nuclear power people, push around, and Mr. Burns is the one who's in charge of it, and he reveals to him at one point that they're farming human misery, which manifests physically when they do it through the wheel, which rich people then grind into a fine powder, which they snort, which causes them to grow tiny wings that cannot allow them to fly.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. I guess Human Soul Collection is kind of like
Capitalism!
that. Yeah.
Alright, anyway. Paige is going to sell her soul.
Yes, Paige is going to sell her soul to Zahn in exchange for Larry will get to go to heaven, where it's going to be really awkward for him with all of the people who are like, I know you just got in here on a technicality. But yeah, Paige signs her soul over, and Larry gets blorped up to heaven, and he's like, God fucking damn it, Paige. Like, she's watching him, like, ascend, and he looks so pissed.
I mean, she has a look of, like, contentment on her face. She's like, yes, he's going to heaven. Things are good.
And she drops dead, and her soul rises out in this, like, in a sexy rag dress.
Yeah, it's, like, kind of a dirty version of the thing that Ariel wears right after she hits land in The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, and he opens his soul contract vault, and Paige is like, oh, so that's where it is.
This is the reason she did this, by the way, was to locate his soul vault.
Yeah.
I feel like this is on him as a demon. Like, this is like killing John Wick's dog, you know? Like, don't make a deal like this with a charmed one. It is not going to work out well for you.
Okay, this is not intentional stage business, but Piper's been trying to get in contact with Paige, and since there's no white light or stuff, she's doing it with the phone.
Uh-huh.
And when Phoebe walks downstairs, Piper's also holding Wyatt. Wyatt grabs the phone out of and pulls it away from her face as Phoebe's walking downstairs to kind of draw her attention. Not intentionally, but
because he's a baby.
Yeah, not intentionally because he's a baby, but it looks like he's trying to draw her attention to Phoebe. It's not intentional, obviously, but it's such a great bit of stage business.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, Richard shows up because his part of the plan was that Paige would do this, and then he would go tell the sisters what she had done so that they would save her because they would feel like they had to. And
Wyatt tries to use, like, the fear beam thing on Richard, and Richard's like, so is your baby just doing that fear spell to every dude who walks through your door? And Piper's like,
oh, what a wacky subplot this was.
She asks if his dad taught him to do that, which probably not.
Well, I mean, the implication is that Leo has convinced Wyatt to do this to keep her from dating.
I think it's just what Wyatt's choosing to do here.
Yeah. Anyway, down in hell, Paige is on the auction block. And this is a very special auction because Zahn has her body and her soul. Creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy.
A Grimlock tries to buy her body and soul for 20 powers, and the powers keep going up. And a lot of these are going to be repeats, right? Like, there's only so many, unless your ranking system is right.
Yeah, I think it's got to be. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
There's this woman with, like, 80s fantasy hair. She has a real extra and Xena vibe to her. She, like, Piper and Phoebe teleport into hell, and Piper blows up the Grimlock. The woman throws the 80s hair woman throws an energy ball at Phoebe, which Phoebe channels back at her using empathy.
Yeah, that was her deal.
Because powers come from emotions, so she can channel powers by feeling other people's emotions.
One of the demons shouts, "Oh no, they're too powerful, run away!" And they all run away. They're the charmed ones.
Yeah.
You should have known before you even showed up to this thing.
So, Paige is like, Piper, blow up the vault. That's where all the souls are. And she does, and all of the souls catch on fire.
And then she, like, lays down on her body, and her soul goes back into her body, and then they vanquish Zahn, and
Phoebe has this line where she's like, I love watching lawyers explode, which I'm assuming is a weird pot shot at Cole. Which, Phoebe, you killed him twice, and he went to super hell. Like, you won the breakup. Leave it alone.
So they're like, okay, so are you dead or not? And she's like, no, I'm not dead. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too hard. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Larry's in heaven. I'm alive. I know I put myself in massive danger because it was the only way to get you two to do your fucking job and be charmed ones.
Well, when Paige is like, Larry's in heaven now, Piper's like, was it worth risking your life over? And Paige is like, Paige says, I knew I wasn't risking my life because I knew you'd save me no matter how mad you were. But also, yes, Piper, saving a man from burning in hell forever is worth risking your life
But
for.
also, she had to risk her life to get you involved. If you had been involved from go, she wouldn't have had to risk her life.
Y'all could have just teleported down and blown everything up in the first 5 minutes of this episode.
Yeah, one of the many reasons that this episode needed a couple rewrites. Because it's like, yeah, you did... Ugh. Mm. So, anyway, then we get the club scene where Stedman?
Yeah, Stedman, Oprah's boyfriend,
is playing, and everybody's like, wow, this band is amazing, Piper. I can't believe you got them to play at the club while you were still dealing with your plot today.
Yeah, they're fine. They're very of the time. This feels like a very specifically dated band.
I have no problem with them other than that we spend so much time on them and everybody dancing in the club. And
this episode was definitely running short.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's like, we're all wrapping up our plots. You know, Piper's still gonna try to date even though she has a baby, and Phoebe's just gonna deal with the fact that she has the rival advice columnist.
Even though we'll never see him again.
Way earlier in the episode, Piper's like, why don't you just tell your boyfriend to fire him since you're sleeping with your boss? And Phoebe's like, I don't want to use my relationship like that, which, okay, sure, but he doesn't appear after this episode, so.
They're also, by the way, totally trash-talking Paige and what she did, because Piper's, like, still mad at Paige, and Piper's like, she risked her life, which means she risked the Charmed Ones and the Power of 3. Imagine if she'd actually destroyed the Power of 3, and it's like, well, y'all aren't doing anything with it. Oh no, what would your life be like if you didn't have to go rescue people, Piper? I'm so mad at Piper this episode.
Leo and Chris walk into P3 and Piper's like, where were you? We tried calling you all day and nothing. And they're like, we got a little lost, which... I'm sorry, Piper's got a new date, but this time she's not going to tell them about the baby. Not until we're on our honeymoon. Because, I mean...
Why does she have to go to extremes? Like...
Why don't you just tell them that you have a baby that you're not willing to let them meet yet until the relationship is more serious? Like, just be like, I have a baby. You don't need to show off the baby.
Anyway, Leo buys Chris a beer to show that there are no hard feelings.
Same way their thing ended last episode, where Leo's like, you did risk your life to save me or someone I used to have sex with, so I guess I'm cool with you until next episode when I'm going to be suspicious of you again.
Paige is at Richard's house so that she doesn't have to deal with her family bullshit, and you know what? Good for her. And she, like, lights a candle for Larry in, like, a very Catholic, like, lighting a candle, saying a prayer for him way that I really liked. And also she thanks Richard for being there for her when her family absolutely was not.
Yes.
And she's, like, really glad that she ran into him. And he's like, hey, it wasn't luck. It was fate. And it's great.
It's an easy way to remember it.
That's an easy way to remember it. And then they kiss, and you're right. I wish he had been the long-term boyfriend. Oh, well.
Yeah. It holds on it for a weirdly long time. It's not a bad thing. It's just another thing where I'm like, this episode was definitely running a little short.
Oh, no, I feel like it held on it for a long time because they wanted us to think that he might be the one, even though he's absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to say the same thing, which is not a bad episode, just...
We were on a run of pretty solid episodes, and we were on a run of pretty good episodes, and this is a solid episode, but, like, it's
just weak. It doesn't come together, but...
Yeah. Honestly, if it had been more of the Paige working with Richard and, you know, honestly...
Less of everything that Piper was doing.
You could have cut... honestly, yeah, you could have cut both Piper and Phoebe's subplots and the whole thing would have run way better. Mm-hmm. You could have had them trying to find Leo and Chris while they were trapped back in time.
There you go!
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not what they did.
Yeah.
They should have called us.
Call us Charmed from 20 years ago.
All right, we want to do our segments?
Sure, much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of 3. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous. No one?
No one, really.
I really thought Zan was going to be someone, but...
Nope, he just has that face.
Yeah. Okay, also, not to backtrack a little bit, but it seemed like they were going to do more with, like, Chris... The last time we saw Chris and Leo back in time, they got captured by Revolutionary-era soldiers, and then the next time we see them, they're just back in the present.
They should have spent more time on them, less time on Piper's nonsense.
There was definitely a bunch of stuff that was left on the cutting room floor for that, which is weird considering how much they needed to fill time.
Well, it also feels like there were 2 plots, right? It feels like there was the Sole Survivor plot and the Chris and Leo's Adventures Through Time plot, and they didn't have a full episode, so they took 2 half-written episodes, shoved them together, and then they took, like, the weakest Piper and Phoebe plots they could to, like, stitch them together.
Okay, sorry, that was a divergence. The second power in our pack is Time Freeze. What specifically dated this episode for you? Stedman?
I've never heard of them.
I have also never heard of them, but the kind of, like... indie pop-ish music they were playing is so specifically of the early 2000s. I did not listen to this band, but I listened to this band a lot in high school. Like,
I mean, I was just going to say the entire way that Piper is going about dating felt very of the time.
Yeah, the whole I've scheduled 3 dates for one day. You know, I have a breakfast date, I have a lunch date, and I have a dinner date.
But also, like, theoretically, she's had no conversations with them, so...
Yeah, like... Yeah, definitely. And that'll bring us to the third power in our pack, Telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you? I really liked the Paige and Richard interactions. Like, they have such a natural, easy relationship. I totally believe them as a couple.
I agree with you. I feel like I was being kind of blasé about it, but I actually really like the Paige and Larry interactions. I like the fact that this is a man who was trying to do good, knowing that there would be no benefit to him just because it would be the right thing to do, you know, with everything that he had done.
Really felt like they were going for a Devil and Daniel Webster thing with him talking about his wife so much, and you know.
This episode really makes me want to sit down and rewrite it. Well, next time. Oh, are you excited for next time?
Oh, what's next time?
Next episode is Sword in the City.
Yeah. Oh, this is the episode where we find out Wyatt is the
True King of England.
He is the destined true King of England. Fantastic.
The Peacock description is, the Lady of the Lake appears before the Charmed Ones and pleads for help.
Oh my god. Ooh, we get to talk about King Arthur stuff.
You know, I took a college course just on King Arthur.
I do know that.
Yeah.
I know that the whole course was structured around you getting all of the jokes in Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yep. Nova Myhill created an entire course so that at the end of the course we would watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it would, on all of the obscure Arthur jokes, would make sense to us.
I took a class, it was in my AP English class in high school, but one of the things we did was we read, not all of it, but we read selections from...
The Mordaughter,
The Once and Future King, and one other... I forget what the third one was.
Did you read Go in the Green Knight? Because that's one people commonly read.
I don't know. We didn't read the whole thing for any one of them. We just read selected passages and, you know, compared and contrasted it was an interesting thing, and I do really want to go back and read The Once and Future King at some point. I did read the whole thing, and I tried reading it to our child back when she was in the hospital, but a lot of that book is just lists of things.
Yep. We have a copy, though.
Yeah.
One of the things in this particular class that was interesting is that because there's a lot of Arthurian myth, we just talked about Grail stories. Like, that's That's the actual way she structured it. Just all of the Grail stories. And she mentioned, like, she could do a whole nother class that was just the Guinevere and Lancelot stories.
Hey, how is Morgan Le Fay related to King Arthur?
I mean, it depends on which version you're talking about.
That's the point. Like,
there could be a whole class on that. Yeah. All right.
Also, Morgan Le Fay, Morgana, more goose. Are they different women? Are they the same women? Are they different aspects of the same woman?
Okay, we're getting really ahead of ourselves, though. Come back in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about King Arthur at you for an hour, and then we'll pop in for about 15 minutes to talk about Charmed.
Yes, this should do it for this episode of Charmed.
Our show is partially listener-supported. If you want to be one of those supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, and Daniel.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode, or any episode of any television show, you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.